These are the 8.2 notes, graphs of the other trigonometric functions, page 1. This is the super fancy version with sound. So first things first, we've already graphed sine and cosine. We want to graph tangent next because tangent is the other one of the three most common trig functions. So we are going to create a table. We are going to graph using ordered pairs, okay? So remember, as we look at the unit circle, that the x-coordinate is our cosine, the y-coordinate is our sine, and we've defined tangent down here in the table as the quotient function sine x over cosine x. Okay? So at negative pi, and notice that we are moving this way around the circle. Starting at negative pi, the sine is 0, cosine is negative 1, and so we get the ordered pair negative pi, 0. At negative 3 pi over 4, which is right here, we get a negative square root of 2 over 2 over negative square root of 2 over 2. So at negative 3 pi over 4, our tangent is 1. We get a negative 1 over 0 at negative pi over 2. So our tangent's undefined, not something that we saw with sine or cosine at all. Negative pi over 4, our sine is negative, our cosine is positive. Oops, wait, ordered pair. Negative pi over 4, negative 1. At 0, we've got 0 over 1. Pi over 4, both the sine and the cosine are positive. So I get pi over 4, positive 1. At pi over 2, I've got 1 over 0. That one's undefined. At 3 pi over 4, my sine is positive, my cosine is negative. I get 3 pi over 4, negative 1. And at pi, 0 over negative 1, I get the ordered pair pi 0. Okay? So again, it's the graph, the blank graph. So let's go ahead and label. Kind of want this spread out a little bit so I can make sense of what's going on. First thing I'm gonna do is throw in these asymptotes. That's not something that we've had to deal with before. So I've got, let's see, at negative pi over 2, I'm undefined. And at positive pi over 2, we're undefined. So I'm going to stick these vertical asymptotes in at negative pi over 2, at positive pi over 2. Notice that I've picked fairly easy numbers to work with on the graph. At negative pi, I've got 0. At negative 3 pi over 4, it's 1. Negative pi over 4 right here. There's my 3 pi. I got negative 1, 0, 0. Pi over 4, 1. I've got another asymptote. 3 pi over 4 right here, I'm at negative 1. Pi again, I'm at 0. So we know that our graph will approach those asymptotes but never hit. So I'm just going to follow the direction that the points take me. Connect the dots, approach the asymptotes. There is one period of our tangent function. This is periodic, like the sine and cosine are. So we know that this is going to continue out. Okay, I tend to draw it like half a parabola opening down and then half a parabola opening up. If I try to make it all continuous, it's all over the place. So the period is the distance it takes for our function to repeat. The period for tangent is pi. This function, what we've graphed, is undefined at plus or minus pi over 2. We are going to generalize that on the next page and write an equation for finding all of the asymptotes. So you notice we stopped here. If I were to continue going, because this is periodic and just repeats, I would have another asymptote here at negative 3 pi over 2 and here at positive 3 pi over 2. But we're going to get into that more in the next couple of pages.